Welcome to Mikey Designs, where occasionally we do some tutorials live. Today is one of those occasions, so be sure to stick around, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the bell so that way you can get notifications whenever we do post a video. As the title of this video does say, we are going to give you some tips and tricks that I personally use to get some of the results that you guys may see on some of our videos, Instagram, all that fun stuff. I'm going to just really do a deep dive into Separation Studio, and this is not a paid advertisement or anything like that. This is to help every one of you out and to really get some good results out of it. Whether you have it or not, you can get a free trial, see how it works out for you. I've personally have used it for the past, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, and it's kind of a little bit of a quick way to separate all of your spot process artwork and to get some pretty awesome results. We posted a little something on Instagram today of a shirt that we did for a client, and we tend to get pretty amazing results. Occasionally, I'm trying to think of how much I have to really use Separation Studio. I would say it's about maybe 60-40 as far as using Separation Studio, 60% versus doing things manually. Occasionally have to go in and manually separate things, but I think you guys are going to learn a lot from this. And if you do have Separation Studio, I do hope you are tuning in. If you're chiming in later, watching this down the road, I know this will be very helpful, because you can get Separation Studio and it just not exactly yield some results. And so this has taken me about 4 or 5 years to really get, or I would say learn how to kind of tune this software in, because as with anything, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Corel, whatever you're using out there, it takes some time to kind of really master something. So I think everybody will get some really good value out of this, and I'm going to give it until about 7:05 before I do start this tutorial. So if you're watching this later and you still want to skip straight to the tutorial, just go to 7:05 and check out what I do have to show as far as tips and tricks and all that. What is up, Tim? What is going on? I appreciate it. I enjoy doing these instructional videos, enjoy doing them live. Indigenous Graphics, what's going on, my man? Shannon she's physically here, but she is ill, so she's going to be stepping aside today, and I'm going to do something instructional today. Tony P, what is going on, my friend? Can you do a stroke in Separation Studio? We'll dive into that a little bit, and we'll have a little bit of a Q&A. I'll kind of go back to answer some of your questions and show you how I would go about doing things. We have missed you too. We have missed you too. Allegiant Graphics, we've missed you. I know we did miss last week, and it was just because we were super slammed. We're kind of just trying to catch up with work, and sometimes, work comes before YouTube at times. I try to squeeze as much as I can in. It's kind of, we're approaching our slow season, so we're trying to really grind things out as quickly as we can, and which will be great for y'all, because I'll be able to upload some more videos. I have a lot of things that I want to tackle, so it'll be awesome. What's up, Rye Beats? What's going on? How was your trip to the Philippines? It looks like you had a great time hanging out with family. Lots of eating. Looks like an awesome time. Shannon's not here, Rye. well, she's physically here, but she's just feeling ill today. So she's been trying to help out as much as she can. Shannon, can you give them a yo from across the room? So she is here, but she's feeling a little under the weather. I believe the kids just, I don't know. I haven't been feeling 100% either. I feel a little stuffy, kind of scratchy throat type stuff. But I'm still going to do some just kind of, excuse me. I'm going to show y'all some cool stuff in Step Studio, whether you have it or not. Prototype A, Jimmy Crummy, what's up? What's going on? T-shirt Empire, hello my friends. The trip was good. Got sick when I got back, right Beats? Yeah, welcome back to America where I don't know if it's just, who knows, man. Like it's that time of the year where things are just kind of coming from the north down south, and for us, the kids, if the kids get ill, they kind of bring it along, because generally it's just 3 or 4 of us at a time. Here lately 3, and so the kids interact with a bunch of other kids, and they like to kind of spread that crap. So thank you, Ramon Ramon the Cholo, we appreciate that. Ramon the Cholo says, hope you feel better, Shannon. Shannon says, thanks, Ramon. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. Looks like there's quite a few of you here. We hope everybody has had an awesome Thanksgiving, and hopefully it was a little enjoyable. Watch a little football if that's your thing. Let's go ahead and dive right into this, and we will get on with the tutorial. Let's go ahead and do this. What's going on, everybody? I apologize we missed last Monday. We we're just really busy, and we happened to have just a week full of days where we just were working kind of round the clock. Maybe got 3 hours of sleep here and there, and it was pretty exhausting. So we actually did try to go live at our usual Monday spot, which is a Mexican restaurant. We'll have some margaritas and kind of like have this happy hour thing where it's very enjoyable for us. I personally look forward to it. I think Shannon herself is pretty much tired of it, but that's neither here nor there. Tried to go live during that, and I don't know, either my phone just wasn't getting good reception, or it might have required some sort of Wi-Fi connection for doing the YouTube live thing. We were gonna kind of do some Q&A stuff, and it'd be like a little bit more of a personal hangout kind of thing, and it just didn't happen. And so I kind of felt bad about it. Wanted to post something up, but we were just so busy that we couldn't get things up, and just ba-da-ba. Oh man. So I do want to make just one announcement real quick before we move on to this tutorial. I did get a phone call from our friends that we got the press from. It seemed like things were going to come in today, but because of the holidays and then the ISS show and all that, so, and some unforeseen things with some of the text and just kind of changes and whatnot. And that's as far as I'm going to go into it. But the press won't be here until the 26th. They did give us a firm date, 26th, 28th of January, which is a couple more months. Been really excited and waiting for it to come in. And however, you know, it's only a couple more months. It's not that big of a deal. But we are going to dive into a tutorial. I'm going to show you guys on Separation Studio. So I'm going to start pulling things up on the back end. And excuse me if I'm clearing my throat today a little more often than usual. It kind of like I was saying, I think Shannon's just not feeling well because the kids, man. I don't know if you saw the video yet, but go over and check it out because it was really fun doing this t-shirt tutorial. It's not necessarily a tutorial, it's just more of kind of, it is showing you how to do things, but also it's us just having some fun with the kids. Getting them to actually screen print is a whole nother thing, but this is more of an art project that I think anybody can do themselves at home for very cheap. But also, it was really cool to do it with the kids. I will advise you guys that working with some bleach, it can, and it's one of the reasons we came here to the shop to do it. We can open up the doors and just turn on the huge fan. The bleach after so with Scarlett, the youngest one, her design was pretty simple. I kind of got her through it, and then with the other two, they just wanted to hose the thing down, and it just started to smell like bleach in the shop. So we had to like air stuff out, but everybody was okay after it. It's completely safe. However, go over and check it out, man. It's pretty comical, and it's like me totally, and Shannon as well, just kind of mom and dad mode. It's a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time just editing it, and there was just some moments I just couldn't cut out. All right, enough of that. Let's dive into this tutorial. I'm going to pull up Separation Studio real quick on the back end, so that way you guys don't have to really watch me open some of this stuff. And I will come back to some of your comments and everything. All right, here we go. Let me pull up my desktop kind of web thingamabobber and all that stuff. In other words, what I'm trying to say is I'm pulling up my screen capture. Okay, so hello. If you guys have never seen OBS on the back end, it's pretty confusing sometimes, especially when you're diving into what we do. There we go. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Here we are with Separation Studio, and I'm just going to kind of drag this over. And here's the artwork that we are going to be working with today. It's a pretty cool project that we just printed. And because we are limited to 6 colors, this job really had more than 6 colors. I'm going to show you how we kind of reduced it down to 6 colors. Some of the things you can do, I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks on this particular graphic here, on what you can do to make the most out of a 6 color press. And you guys can go over, again, it's not anything that's like, we're not making anything off of this. I'm going to reach out to Separation Studio, we have in the past, but I need to reach back out to them. But I do think this is a pretty powerful software that is very useful to do your separations pretty quickly. I know I've talked to Ryan from Ryanette. There's certain things that they do and all that, but this is kind of just 4 or 5 years of me learning this software and how it's kind of really helped us out. And there's some just cool things you can do with it. And this is going to be in regards to a black t-shirt. Using a black shirt is going to be easiest. As soon as you start moving away from black, it does become pretty tricky, because the black, we can, some of these, like say for instance, you don't need black in order to print. Like say for instance, these fender wells and all that stuff. But however, here's the graphic we're going to work with, and what we're going to do is we're going to, first thing I want to do, so this is what our client provided us with. I'm going to drag this over to Photoshop real quick. Here you can see some of the awesome back end editing stuff that I did a little earlier. Some other projects we have coming up. All right, so I'm getting this little error here. I'm not gonna. I'll dive into that real quickly. I do assign a lot of profiles and whatnot for doing certain things, and so sometimes I have to reset things, and it's not reset at this moment. So I'm going to use the embedded profile real quick. Did you like that, Shannon? You shut your mouth. Okay, so we do have a little bit of space around this design. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of crop it down so that way, like this design, we're doing it pretty much, it's not absolutely the maximum print that we do, but it's kind of our standard 12 inches wide because of 13 by 19 film. So what I'm going to do is it's kind of in crop mode generally already, but I'm going to come over here to the little thumbnail here, and I'm going to hold command on my keyboard. I am on a Mac. If you're on a PC, just hit control, kind of hover over this thumbnail here, click on it, and it will bring up a selection. And hopefully you guys can see these little marching ants around it. That's our selection. So if you just hit C on the keyboard, let me go over to here. Okay. So I'm going to hit C on the keyboard. And what that will do when you bring your selection up is it will just immediately crop it down to where your selection is already at, your marching ants and all that. So if you hit C and then hit enter, it's just going to crop it down to the size of your selection. Because I do know that this is a 12-inch wide print, we can do up to 18 inches tall. I'm going to hit Command Option I, or it could be Control Option I. And right now I have it set in pixels. I don't know how our feed is doing at this moment. This is one of the things we're going to work on this coming year. We might just need to upgrade our upload speeds. That way there is no lag. However, it's set to pixels at this very moment. I'm going to turn to inches. It's 16 inches wide, 16.7 by 300 dpi. So I'm going to turn it to 12. And we're just going to leave it at 300 dpi. So ideally, you do want to work with a 300 dpi image. 200 will be fine. 150 will start kind of pushing it a little bit because you'll start to get some sort of gridding effect in it. I'm not going to show you that right now because I don't think we have enough time to show you all of that. So 12 inches wide, and it's going to fall to the 13.027 inches high, and I'm going to hit OK. So there we go. That's one of the most basic and first steps you need to really get a handle on is the size of your artboard and your DPI. Very important. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this real quick. And I'm going to save it as a TIFF. A PNG will work just fine. We are in RGB mode. If you're in CMYK, you need to switch that to RGB for Separation Studio. And we're just going to, I'm just going to save this to the desktop for the heck of it, or maybe to my documents real quick. And I'm going to click off of layers. We don't need it to be layered. It will just increase the size of the document. So that will save us some space on our hard drive. And then I'm going to hit save. And here we want to, you can do some sort of compression. I have it set to none, but LZW is absolutely acceptable. LZW, and you want to make sure that Save Transparency is selected. And the reason being is if, let's say for instance, because we are working with a black shirt and the background is black, that's absolutely fine. But if you have it saved as a transparency, let's say you're doing a different color shirt, if you're working with a black background or image, you're gonna have to knock that out, trim it out, all that stuff. if it does have a black background, you're working with a black shirt, you should be pretty safe. But we're going to make sure that this is saved as a transparency. And I'm not sure if you guys have any questions at the moment because I haven't checked, but give me a second and I'll come back and just kind of see what is going on in the feed. Okay, so we're all set there. We're going to go over to Separation Studio, and then I'm going to open this up. I'm going to take a look at the feed and see what kind of questions you guys have. I'm going to hit Command O, and I'm going to go to my documents and find that TIFF that we just saved. All right, I'm going to go over to OBS here, and I'm going to take a look at just to see if you guys have any questions thus far. If I can find it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. There we go. I almost sound like a McDonald's commercial. Why is that? Okay. Let me pull up my chat real quick and just kind of scroll down. Let's see. Buzz. Hope you feel better. We appreciate that. Did you get the prototype 8? I'm sorry, man. We just with it being the holiday season and all that, there's just been some shuffling going on, and so it's kind of looking like, I mean, it is looking like it's going to be somewhere in between the 25th, 27th. So keep an eye out for that. I was really looking forward to it. When they told me the last weekend of November, I'm like, oh man, that's the holidays. I'm not sure that's going to work for us. And you know, we were kind of expecting it this week, and then it got a phone call today first thing, and they said, hey, here's what's going on. We're gonna have to shuffle some things around, which isn't a big deal. I'm just kind of looking forward to it, and the transition of everything before the beginning of the year, so that way we could kind of move forward with the new press and do some work with it. But not a big deal. Not a big deal whatsoever. Let's see what we got here. Kevin Wallace. Hi, kids. At least the kids had more success than I have at screen printing. There was a lot of hand holding there, Kevin. I'll say that. But it was a lot of fun. It was a cool project, and I'm happy that we did it with them. I would consider an intro into designing shirts, because what we do out there, they're just still too young to really help out, even though they do stack shirts just like occasionally. Whose art is that? That is professional, man. Hey, little Jimmy. Shannon keeps threatening to throw away my doo-doo, and I still have it. I had it hanging up from the rear view mirror for a little bit, and it's in the car. I had to hide it from Shannon, so that way she wouldn't throw it away. Allegiant Graphics. I've been fighting a hoodie order for a week. Just can't get a clean white print on navy. Yeah, I mean, hoodies are pretty tough. Maybe try using a little bit of a lower mesh green. Sometimes hoodies, they can be a little tricky, and then use some spray tack. Some of the things that we find difficult is the fact that even though you have it tacked down quite well, it has that much more thickness to it, and it can wiggle with your printing and flashing and all that. So give it just a little more kind of wiggle room as far as the spread on your overprint colors and all that, and you should be fine. I know that we it's sometimes hit or miss for us. But Kevin Wallace, is there more than one version of SEP Studio? I have a basic one, but not seeing if there's another version. I used 3 for a long time and recently upgraded to the 4, so this will work for 4 as well. 3 as well, because I learned all these tricks on 3. So if you have 3, which is a little bit of an older version, then you are A-okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so it looks like a double comment. Yes, I started with a 230. I just burned a 156. We'll give it a try. That might help, depending on the ink, the day, how warm or cool it is, and whether or not you're having a good day or not. And there's a lot of variations that can go into that. So yeah, try that 156. It might help out. Just like I was saying a little earlier, try to put a little bit more spread on your overprints, and that will kind of help with any of the issues that may come up with just the hoodie shrinking itself or moving around. And use some web spray in between every single print. Generally, when we do hoodies, we have to replace the palette tag or the tape, the palette tape, immediately, because we start doing some t-shirts afterwards. It's like printing on a rocky road. So okay, cool. Moving on, I am going to move on to going back to doing this little demonstration here. Looks like we got everything pulled up. Okay, let's dive right into the meat and potatoes of this. By the way, I will share what the artist name is, just in case you guys want to work with this particular artist. And I'll do that later, so come back and check on the video. I'm not sure what the artist name is, but I do know that some of the files have been shared. Okay, so one of the things I do like to do is just kind of bring up what the actual file should look like. Let me close this off real quick. And I'll bring this over here, so that way we can kind of get a little bit of a side-by-side comparison. I'm going to go back to OBS real quick and make sure everything's okay, because my computer kind of hung up there for a second. Okay, looks like everything's fine. Okay, so one of the things immediately that I do notice is the green's not as bright, and some of these blues are super blue, and I'm going to show you how to go about fixing that. And there's a few things we can do. I mean, sometimes I'm going to open this up real quick, just kind of spread this open. Sometimes you can hit auto adjust and it will just kind of, and I'm not sure this is available in version 3, but I will show you how to manually do it in Separation Studio. And once you learn these, it'll go pretty quick from job to job, and you'll know whether or not this is working for you, and you just need to do it like manually. This is how I kind of figure it out pretty quickly and determine whether or not I just need to charge a client for the time, just by hitting auto adjust. And if things just look like, if it doesn't look like it should, then I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and try and make some adjustments. I'm gonna hit Command Z or Control Z if you're on a PC. So the first thing I will always do, because like say for instance up here where it says Peterbilt, with our white top, it does tend to really want to add just some white into it that it really should not be there. My computer's acting a little goofy right now. There we go. So if we take our little mouse here and scroll over what should be red, or generally, so let's say for instance you have some red type in there, it should just be a bright red. You can scroll your mouse over it, and down here in the bottom it'll give you some values, and holding my mouse over it, down over here in the white top is telling me I got 9% white in there. And so it's going to add some white dots in there, which I do not want. I know Ryan from RyanNet says, he's like, hey, we just completely get rid of the white top. I don't like to do that, because we do our white base, we put our colors on top, and then we have our white top in order to make those whites really bright. Generally use a 230 mesh I'll do 45 LPI at 22.5 degrees with a round dot. And I'll show you that here once we finish separating this. So one of the very first tips and tricks for Separation Studio, take a look at your white top and just kind of scroll over some of the colors here. Generally what I do is I'll just right click on the white top and go to adjust separation. And then here in the low saturation, let's say for instance we scrolled over this Peterbilt part right here and I just want it to be a bright white and it was reading 9%. So one of the things I'll do is I'll just pull it back to 90% right here in the low saturation. And by doing that, it gets rid of the white. So I'll put that back in there. It might be a little hard to see, but you can see here the just by pulling it back 10%, you know, it's pulling a lot of that white highlight out. Really what the white highlight is good for is for making your really bright whites a bright white. So sometimes I might need to pull it back 30%, but in this particular case, I'm going to do it at about, I'm going to pull it back to 90%. So we're cutting out some of those little 10% dots that are in places they just really don't need to be. I'm going to hit accept, basically okay. So that's looking better. Some of the things you can do, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. At this moment, we don't have a 9-color press, so we have to be able to make this work with 6 colors. That might have been 7 fingers, but 6 colors. I have my thumb sticking out there. All right, so one of the things you can do is you can go up to separations here and we can merge the purple. I really don't see any purple in there. I didn't see that much of a change. I'm gonna hit undo. We'll actually click on the purple layer here. I'm not seeing anything there. So what I can do is actually right click here in this area and view as film. And that will show me just a black and white, almost like your film. It's gonna show me, so what's white is, you know, it's not going to, the light's going to be coming completely through onto your screen. And then you can see a couple little dots here, and it's not that big of a deal. Like we could either completely get rid of this purple, or I can take this purple and then just completely drag it onto the red and then just hit multiply like so. And what that will do is make sure we're adding that magenta or that purple. Technically, I look at it as magenta. We're adding that to the red, so that way you're not losing that information and you're kind of adding those dots to the red. All right, moving on. One of the other things we can do, so we're down to our underbase, our red, our blue, gold, green, turquoise, gray, and white top. So we got 8 colors. We need to remove 2 more colors here. One of the things I can do, depending on how things start to look, I do know that the red, the gold, the blue, and the green, and perhaps the gray as well are pretty essential. We could potentially just take this gray and merge it into our white top. So this is another trick here. We're going to go to separations and then merge gray. And it doesn't really look like there's a whole lot of change, but I will tell you on press, and I'm just hitting Command plus, or you use Control plus, these gray tones right here. So at this point, we're using white and then white again to make these gray tones, but it's a pretty solid gray. So in this particular case, I don't want to get rid of my gray. Other jobs I might use this method if it doesn't have like a solid gray area. But in this case, I want to retain that gray because that gray is a pretty essential part, and I don't want to use halftones to make a gray. So I'm going to just zoom back out and hit Command Undo. And what I'm going to do, and I use this often, is if there's something that's a really bright white and I do have a gray in there, is I'll take my white top and I'll actually drag that white top to the underbase, and we'll hit multiply. And that will actually give us a nice bright white and allow us to use some of these other colors. So we still have red, blue, gold, green, turquoise, and gray. So we're down to 7 colors now. However, you may have noticed that the color did get a lot darker, and I'll show you how to go about adjusting that. Now if we go over to our gray, it's looking pretty good. I think I might want to, and one of the important things is you can take your mouse. I'm just going to kind of shake this thing so you can see the big mouse. We want to just kind of scroll over some of these gray areas, and we kind of want some of this 100% because not necessarily 100%. And it all comes down to preference on your press. If you want to use a Pantone color that absolutely matches this gray here, that's fine and dandy. We tend to use the gray C8 to, and also, I mean, going back to our underbase here. Sorry, my computer's kind of lagging a little bit. All right, so you can see here that as I scroll my mouse over what should be gray right here, it's giving me about a 40% reading there, and that will help for this gray to get that particular appearance. So I probably might not touch that a whole lot. It just depends on how much work it takes to get things back to looking like the original graphic right here. And it does look like it's a little bit lighter. So because the gray is a little bit lighter, I'm just going to right click on this white base, go to adjust separation, and I'm going to adjust the high separation. And we're going to try and get it a little closer to this here because we did get rid of our white highlight. So we kind of want to boost the base up a little bit until it starts. And you can drag it all the way to the right and just go stupid with it. But I kind of like to work my way up until things start looking like they should. So to me, and what I'm looking at really is my grays here, and then also my white, what the areas that should be really bright white. Something I haven't mentioned, which is another just kind of tip, trick, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that because we did get rid of the highlight white and we're trying to work with some more of these colors, is the fact that we're going to have to do a print flash. So this would take a little more time, even on an automatic. A manual, it will take more time. However, when you are limited to the 6 colors, which I know a lot of you guys are, if you're limited to 4, you have to kind of remove some of these colors, and this is probably a job that you just won't be able to do. However, you can still do a lot with 4 colors. In this particular instance, we're talking about 6 colors. And so the white base will have to be a print flash print for sure. And it doesn't even leave any room for flattening screen or anything like that. But to me, this looks pretty good. I'm thinking it looks pretty awesome. So we're just going to go ahead and hit accept here. I do notice that the Peterbilt here, where it is kind of a pretty bright red, it could use a little bit of a boost. So I'm going to go to the red. I'm going to right click on it, hit adjust separation, and I'm going to just boost that up a little bit just to make that red a little bit brighter. I don't want to put too much in there because it does have a little bit of a shadow here, and that's kind of one of the things that's a little bit of a push and shove when you're working with 6 colors and there's more colors in here than um, that's then you have to really accomplish this print as it should be. We're going to get it pretty close towards where if we did have 8 or 9 colors, there's not a whole lot of difference. But this is one of those instances where it's going to be, uh, just a little bit noticeable, and that's probably being super picky. But when it comes to your printing and all that, you want to be able to do the best work you can, right? Okay, so we boosted our red about 16%, so I'm going to hit OK. That looks pretty good to me. Anything over that, we'll just completely start blowing things out. Now, one of the things coming over to this blue is the fact that this blue is a little too blue. I mean, it looks like it's a little bit more turquoise than anything else. We are down to 7 colors at this point. Let me open this up so you guys can see. And I'll come back to the chat, see if any of you have any questions thus far. But at the moment, we might have to decide, because the gold, if I turn this off, there's a little button here and up here as well. If I turn the gold off, there's quite a bit of gold in there, and that gold is really making up the shoes, their flesh tones, the amber lights on top of the semi, and I'm sure it probably has some yellow or gold inside the truck itself, and you can see it actually does. And there's some inside of this Peterbilt sign right here as well, to just kind of give it a little bit more of a vibrant red. So we definitely can't get rid of that yellow. The red we definitely can't get rid of. The green we can't either. The turquoise we might be able to sacrifice, but I feel like in this particular case, we're going to have to choose between the blue and the turquoise. If you have a 7-color press, this is a cool trick that you can do because it is a little too blue. I'm going to take this blue here and I'm just going to drag it over the turquoise. Actually, let me back up for a second. I'm going to duplicate the blue. So I just right clicked on the blue, hit duplicate separation, and then I'm going to drag our duplicate on top of the turquoise and hit multiply. And as you can see, I mean, that pretty much cured our situation because we added some more of the turquoise into the blue, and we could go back and perhaps right click, do adjust separation, and pull out some of that turquoise until it looks a little closer. And we can right click on the blue and pull some of that blue back. And I mean, we're pretty close. Aside from adjusting our green could use a little bit more of a boost. To me, this green looks like it could be a neon green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this green here, and we are going to change the color of this green to a little bit more of a neon green. So let's just go ahead and hit create new and just kind of drag this up to what is a little bit more of a neon green color. Let's see here. So I just created this new green here, neon green, or maybe I didn't. Okay, so we're pretty close. I need to double click on this again. Let's go over to our neon green, and we'll change that up. I think we went probably just a little bit too far, so we'll hit create new. We'll pull this down a little bit. And so we're trying to basically just replicate the green that's here, and you might just have to play around with it a little bit. Let's go to edit. And we'll change that neon green to something just a little bit darker. We'll hit accept. accept again, and then let's go back and look at our preview. I mean, that's pretty close. I think one of the things we do need to do is go over to our neon green, right click on it, adjust separation, and then with our high separation slider, I'm just going to slide this up a little bit and then just kind of boost that green just I'm actually boosting it by 35%. So on press, you are going to kind of get some varying results. I tend to not want to oversaturate things because I can always hit the color on press a couple times. I can print it, flash it, and print it again to get a brighter effect. That's something to keep in mind. You do have quite a bit of control. There's only so much you can do with it. If a particular color, like we need this green to be a little bit brighter, you can print it, flash it, print it again, and then continue printing things wet on wet. Generally, like a project like this, I'll just do everything wet on wet. I'm not going to flash anything because we need some of these colors to mix up to get these flesh tones. So I'm thinking this looks pretty good on press if I need to do a print flash print, and I'm going to do my best to record a video of this particular job and post that up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. I'm pretty happy with that. We are going to have to get rid of either the blue or turquoise because we still do have 7 colors. So I'm going to turn the blue off and see how it looks. I'm going to turn the turquoise off, see how it looks. I don't really care for the turquoise being gone. I do like how it looks without that blue. But one of the things you can do is do a little bit of a custom mix and do something that's in between the two to kind of compensate for that. So I'm just going to get rid of the blue. I'm just going to delete it. So right click, delete separation. I'm going to go over to my turquoise, double click on it. Let's just go ahead and edit it. And what we'll do is essentially we'll just come up with a new color because we kind of need something in between the two of basically the two of them. So we have our blue and our turquoise. We need something in between those two colors. And so let's go ahead and just edit this color. Sometimes they might have like a default color, but let's just hit create new. This is one of the things about Separation Studio that can be a little quirky, is just creating a new color. I'm just wanting to change this turquoise real quick. And I think this is great because you guys can see that, like, you know, I know my way around and how to achieve the results that I do, but I'm not like a computer whiz, like, absolutely. Like at this very second, I'm like, how the heck do I go back and create a new color? So I'm like double clicking on the swatch here. Let's see here. Turquoise. Yes, we need to change the turquoise. And so, I mean, really, we're just kind of like creating a representation here on screen to just make sure everything will be cool when we go to press. I mean, when we go to press, I could just toss another color ink in there, but I'm going to figure this out just real quick. Process IN, no, that's not what we want. Let's, nope, definitely not process black. No, no, no. We need a new color. Perhaps if I change the name of it, let's see, we'll just call it, I don't know, let's call it teal or something like that. Shuffle this around. There we go. So we need something in between the turquoise color and blue. I'm thinking this might be pretty close. We'll select that. We'll hit accept. Okay, So that's looking pretty good. It could use that blue. However, you know, having 6 colors and this job pretty much having 9 to 10 colors that it could really use. To me, this is pretty acceptable, and our client will be pretty happy with it. One other tip that I am going to give you guys is, as you do look at our underbase, our red, our gold, our neon green, teal, and our gray, that's basically your print order. You can kind of shuffle some of these things around. So if I put the green underneath or the teal underneath the green, and vice versa, you can definitely see some changes that happen. Perhaps one of the biggest things is dragging the gold underneath the red when you do have, like, let's say for instance, some flames or something like that going on. So you can kind of drag those around and see how things look. And that will kind of help you determine what print order to go in. With this particular print, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of change because some of these details are so small. You'll definitely see it when it comes to some other jobs, something with some fire or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to the chat real quick. I know someone did mention something about a spread. So let me see if I can't pull up the chat real quick and then just kind of catch up with you guys. Let's see here. Let's see what we got going on. Why a round dot and not ellipse? Ellipse is actually absolutely fine. An ellipse will work great. In some cases, even better, because you're using kind of an oval dot to really make that hold up to your screen. I tend to like to use a round. It just depends on what DPI you're using. Ellipse works just fine, so that's a little bit more preference than anything. Joker Shine, what's going on, my friend? This is you can ask Joker Shine, the artist that did create the artwork for him. We are sending these things out to him tomorrow. We had to wrap up the front print, but because it's fresh on my mind, I did want to kind of show you guys how I would go about using Separation Studio to really kind of separate these things out. Let's see this. Jason Ends, what is up, my friend? The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas. You're absolutely right about that. When I bought a press, says Kevin Wallace, I anticipated needing more colors, so bought a 6-color so I didn't have to add or rebuy. Yeah, 6-color is a good way, a good press to start out with. Larry O'Daniel, sorry I'm late for the party. No worries, my friend. We're just kind of doing a little bit of a tutorial here. Hey, little Jimmy, I wanted to jump through the screen and say, let me try. I love art. That's awesome. I'm not sure if you're referring to this particular piece of art, but I'm glad. You know, I'll say one of the things about doing something for a living, if you enjoy what you do for a living, in this case, screen printing, then feeling that way, I think that's amazing. Jason, we will be back to, I'm just going to say this, we'll be back to our regular, I thought it would be this week. Shannon's feeling a little under the weather, but that's totally okay. We'll have her back on. Daniel Foster, hello to you all. I haven't made the jump yet, but what if you can't afford to go straight in with a 6-color press? Am I wasting my time with the 4-color dongle? I imagine you're saying single station here, Riley Hopkins. Dongle. No, I mean, get what you can get in order to get the ball rolling, because if you're not producing anything, you're not going to start building up the clientele, and perhaps find someone that you can outsource the jobs that require more colors to. Find someone that will do it for contract pricing, so that way you can at least mark up the shirts 100%, wherever the case is, and not turn those prints down. Jurassic. Dang, didn't know this was live. We are definitely live, so I'm diving in, just kind of showing some of my methods. Of course, with every job, it's going to be a little different, and I might have to do some more of these in the future, just so you guys can kind of like really get a handle on, at least myself, how I go about separating some of these things in Separation Studio. And by the way, use our links down below if you guys need Illustrator or any of those things. I'm about to show you. So I'm pretty happy with the artwork. I'm just going to save it and then show you how I would bring it into Adobe Illustrator. We tried lining something up with Separation Studio in the past, and I've kind of let it fall off the radar. But for doing these type of tutorials, I'm going to reach back out to them this winter, and we'll have a link for Separation Studio, which if you're watching this in the future, be sure to check down in the description, because we will have that towards where you guys can get that through us for teaching you how to use their software properly. Will I find jobs of single? Yeah, I'd say most jobs are probably no more than 4 colors. It's not every day we're doing a 5 and 6 color print. And even if it has technically 4 colors, one of those being a white, you can do a print flash, and have a nice bright white and do some overprints. I would just advise using a little bit higher of a mesh, so that way your screens aren't wanting to stick to the bottom of your other screen. Something else you can do is get a little bit of silicone spray, put it on your overprint colors. If you are doing a print flash print with something that's 156 and below, that will help out with that. Jurassic would have joined earlier. Man, come on, Jurassic. You're supposed to join us regardless. Just join anyways. Toss it, put it on, and just let it play. However, we're glad to have you. I hope everything's going well over there, Jurassic. Daniel Foster. I will find jobs of single colors, etc. I started out with a single color press and did single color jobs all day long until I found something that was used, and that's how I ran into the Renar brand. Only thing I knew at that point was the Ryonet stuff, so don't want to restrict myself, in a way that stops me from getting jobs. Again, I would say trying to find someone else. You can outsource that too, or you can. I use my 1 color press to do 2 color jobs and use opaque inks, and would do a flash print type of situation, and then take that screen off, line up a new screen, and do it that way. It takes a lot of time, but sometimes that's what it takes. What's up, Oscar? What is going on? Glad to have you on. So many to choose from. There are. I would say just buy something used. I wouldn't even worry about getting something new. Whatever comes up used and it's not an absolute piece of junk, get it. Getting back on SEPs and email and listening. I appreciate that, Jurassic. Okay, one more. Demo. More has been an issue I keep running into. Any thoughts? More? If you could rephrase that question, I'm not quite understanding what the question is. But, all right, guys, I'm going to jump right back in. I'll come back to demo. I'm going to do this for about another 5 minutes. I'm just going to show you guys how to essentially bring this into Adobe Illustrator. So here's the file. I'm going to go to File and then Save As. Everything looks hunky-dory here to me. We're going to save it to our documents. This is going to save it as a PSD. I'm going to hit Save. And then I'm going to go over to Adobe Illustrator. I have a link down in the description where you can grab our t-shirt registration template so you don't have to worry about wasting time doing that. And I'm going to go over to my templates here, my t-shirt registration template, and I am going to open that up real quick. You have to excuse me, it's getting late in the day. It's probably time to eat a little something and take it easy. Might not be the case though, because we're still playing catch up a little bit. All right, so let's go over to our documents. Here is our file that we did save, the Peterbilt rig PSD. I'm going to double click on that. So what this is going to do is it's going to bring in all of our spot colors, which you guys can see here over to the right. We have our white base, our gold, our red, our teal that we created, our neon green, and then our gray. It might look a little funky on this artboard, but however, it's just a representation. As long as everything looked good in Separation Studio and you do a good job exposing your screens, you'll be a-okay. So I'm just going to center this here, center it to our artboard, and we are good to print. I'm going to hit Command P, or you can go to the file and print. And then we want to go to output. The newest version of Separation Studio does include, because it's CMYK, it includes, not CMYK. The way it likes to save it is a PSD, and it will save it in RGB, in which Adobe Illustrator will interpret it as cyan, magenta, yellow, those RGB channels, but it does have the 6 spot channels that we just created, right? So we'll have to turn off CMYK, and then at this point we would be good to go. The print, I'm gonna open up AccuRip just real quick, just to kind of show you guys my settings as a question came up about. I'm gonna click up here to the right hand side, edit configuration, configure halftones. And I would set something like this to 45 LPI by 22.5 angle, essentially. So our angle is 22.5. Frequency, which is our LPI or DPI, will be 45. I like round. You can use ellipse. You can use diamond. You can use line. Depending on your graphic, I necessarily wouldn't go with line. Not with something like this, unless you're trying to get a certain effect. I generally stick with round. I've used ellipse quite a bit. It works well. So there you have it. I would just hit OK and then hit print. And for the sake of this demonstration, I'll do the underbase just real quick. So if you guys want to hang on, I'm going to turn my Epson 1430 on, load some film in there. And I'll see if I can't bring you guys along for the ride. Could use a little bit more of extension. I wasn't planning on doing this part here. But I'm going to open the Epson printer up, turn it on, and then I'm going to take a sheet of film. I'm going to toss it into the printer real quick. And this might take, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes or so. So I'm just going to, you're probably already seeing that as it is. Let me make sure let me just do my regular view here, so that way you guys can see. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm just gonna print that white base. I'm gonna print it out, and then it'll probably take a second because I do have a lot of programs open at the moment, so let's give it a moment. And I know that my computer probably could use a restart at this point. It's been on all weekend, but here we go. We'll see if I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but the trying to bring y'all as close as I can. There we are. So it's printing away. Now I need to readjust my microphone here. And just as soon as it's finished printing, I will show you guys. I'll show you all the results. So just give it a few minutes, and I'm going to go back over to the chat, see if anyone has any questions before I kind of wrap this up. Demo message retracted. I have no idea what that means. Let's see. It might be because you're typing too many questions at once. Wave patterns and halftones. Oh, okay. You're getting a moire. Gotcha. So you're getting a moire. I would say if you're getting a moire pattern, it's probably because you're not using the same angle on everything. So you're kind of wanting to stack those dots on top of one another, no matter what angle you're using. It's either that or your screens might, the tension might be getting a little off from print to print. You're probably not using the same halftone currency between each of them. There's something that's shifting there if you're getting that kind of moire pattern going on. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it can be an issue. But I think as long as you're outputting your film and you have some good screens that you're starting out with, it definitely can be an issue. Daniel Foster, my ink question: which inks to have for startup? Comes from lack of knowledge and so much choice, and also wanting to make sure that I have the inks I need for the press capabilities in mind. I mean, I would just start with some house colors, Daniel, to be honest. Just start with your basic colors, or just get the colors as the jobs come up. So that way you're not like stocking up on colors you don't necessarily need. I know we go through white, black, red, golden yellow, lime, lemon yellow, excuse me, green. Like your basic colors are going to be the ones that you use the most, really. So I wouldn't get too carried away with your colors. Just buy what you need for the job. Keep that money in your pocket for now. And as the jobs come up, just kind of, chuck it up to the job kind of requiring some of that profit to put back into the business to buy the ink that you need. Matthew Grider, we tried multiple angles. Does mesh count affect angle and dot size? Yes, it does. Okay, that's a very good point. I mean, I would stay consistent. I would just, for starters, until you kind of start to get a grasp, I would just keep them the same. For these spot process jobs, I tend to use 230 throughout. I might use a 195 or 200, and then just kind of lower my what. So in other words, your lowest DPI or your lowest mesh count, you want to make sure that you can be able to hold those dots on that mesh count, and then just retain that through even your higher mesh counts, and that probably will help. Matthew Grider, yes. Kevin Wallace, that's why I went with the shop package. It had everything I almost bought used, but when learning, I didn't want to have a press that may have issues too. Yeah, they're if you're pretty mechanically inclined. There's not a whole lot that can really go wrong with them aside from things breaking. They might need a little bit of tune-up, just some adjustment. And even with a new press, you're going to have to really learn how to adjust things that way things don't get out of whack. Is there a formula to reference? As far as LPI, I would just use the 4.5 reference. So if you're using a 230 mesh and you take your calculator, enter 230 and divide it by 4.5, that'll give you 51 LPI. However, I think that's pretty optimistic depending on your setup. I tend to do 45 LPI and 230, and that's because we have a multi-bulb exposure unit. If you have a single light source or single point kind of exposure unit, then you can probably get away with a little more than 51. All right, so Matthew Grider, what Matt said. Okay, cool. So we have our graphic ready to go. Let me switch this over, and then I think we will wrap this session up. So here we go. So here is our white base. You can see that the top of grind time and the parts that should be a really bright white, or even areas that need to be like a pretty vibrant color. This is how your film will end up coming out. I'm not sure if this is going to focus in on some of these little halftones, but you can kind of see it there. So there we are at 45 LPI, and this is what would be our white base for the job. And that, my friends, wraps up this little session. I hope you guys have learned a little something. Trying to think what to say here. A little delirious at this point because it's getting late in the day, but I appreciate everyone that has tuned in. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Check out some of our other videos. We'll continue to bring you some more educational videos such as these to you guys. We'll have some more graphic design stuff coming up. I got a lot in the works, and there's just not enough time in the day to handle all my ideas. If I could crank them all out immediately, they would be up. But just keep an eye out for some more stuff. The press it's going to take another couple months, unfortunately, but not a big deal because, it gives us something to look forward to. Unfortunately, things kind of happen the way they do. And we appreciate every one of y'all tuning in. Catch us next Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shannon the Shop Gnome, she is here, but a little under the weather. She will be back. Shannon, you want to say something? She's waving. She's not feeling so hot. So we need to get out of here, get a little something to eat, and then we'll have some more stuff for you this coming week. We'll see you guys next time. Y'all take it easy, and in the memory, not that she's like gone or anything like that, she's here. Shannon, did we do the alligator joke? Mm-hmm. Damn it, son of a gun. All right, where does a plug go shopping at? The outlet mall. Okay guys, we will see you next time. As in the shut up, Shannon. She's giving me a hard time about it, but we'll see you guys next Monday, and we'll just kind of see you guys around. Y'all have a good one. Peace.